Welcome everybody to Who's Your Band. I am Jeffrey Paul. I am joined by Sean Morton. How are you, Sean?
Jeff, any day that I talk to you is a glorious, shining day.
It should be. It should be.
I'm lying,
Um,
but
now, since we did our last show, did we
yes.
talk about going to see Zach Wild over at Starland?
I don't think we did.
Yeah, that was kind of an interesting show.
It was a very interesting show. First off, I will say that the Starland Ballroom is my home concert venue. It's 3 minutes away from my house. I have seen many a sold out show there, many a sold out show. Never did I ever see a crowd that packed for a show, even though it was sold out. And I figured out the reason why. You can sell 2,000 tickets to go see Hanson and walk around with no problem. You can walk around with 2,000 people for a Zach Sabbath show and not be able to move because all of his fans are gigantic fat monsters.
There were a lot of big people. But
Holy Christ, on a bike. It was horrible. There was one point we were trying to go to the merch booth and we had to wait 15 minutes because there was no way we could actually walk through the crowd.
yeah, it was jammed, man. It was really packed. Um, but I liked the show. I liked seeing him in a small venue like that. I didn't realize how much he sounds like Ozzy.
Well, he kind of mimics it a little bit with his act. I mean, his voice is a little nasal to begin with, but he kind of mimics the Ozzy sound.
As as soon as he opened up with Supernaut,
Oh, it drove me
and
nuts. I
yeah,
loved it.
that was excellent. And then into I think they did a Symptom of the Universe, Children of the Grave. I mean, it was really I thought it was a really good set list. It wasn't the typical songs you're going to hear from Sabbath. I thought it was good. The only thing we talked about this on the way home. Um, he loves the sound of his own guitar playing.
Yeah, that's the only thing that's starting to really get to me now. My best friend came with us. He's a guitar player too, and he's just like, yeah, you gotta stop with the fucking
Yeah,
solos,
yeah.
dude.
A 6 minute song turned into a 14 minute
Well, that's the thing, man. He did
opus
2 hour set and he did 14
and
songs.
14 songs.
Cut the solos in half, dude. You can add freaking four more songs onto it.
The thing is, we love music, and our guest today is not only a comic, but him and I did a show for a couple of years together. And really, man, he's in a music, he's a music aficionado. He turned me on to a lot of stuff that I didn't like really listen to, and we'll get into it on this episode. But it's my pleasure to welcome back to the show. We had him on during the pandemic in the early stages of Who's Your Band, but we're having him on as a solo guest today. Give it up for Dustin Chafin. How are you,
Yay.
Dustin?
What's up,
Very,
guys? Great to see you
very
again.
excited.
Yeah,
Very excited for this. I
This,
like that.
I like you, buddy. This is fun. I wanted to go to that concert. I did.
are you a
I ended
Zach
up,
Wild fan?
sure. Yeah. I mean, I'm Sabbath, all that good stuff. Anything that rocks. It's interesting. I went to Guns N' Roses about a month ago at the Hollywood Bowl, and similar situation, except all the fans of Guns N' Roses are mostly disabled because of all the stuff they did in the 80s and 90s, getting drunk, falling off roofs and stuff. So there was so many crutches and like just wheelchairs just rolling around. I think their fans got a little banged up, but yeah, it's interesting you said about of course he wants to hear himself, play so damn good. I mean,
But it's
with
the same solo, Dustin. It's the
I
same
get it.
solo.
It's okay. It's how many more solos has he got left? He's got to keep doing it. That's your passion. I mean, you don't get tired of your jokes. I mean, maybe you do a little
Oh, I
bit,
get tired of
but
Jeff's jokes. I totally get tired of Jeff's.
but let me tell you, who earned their money at Guns N' Roses? Slash, that poor guy. I
He's
felt
great.
like Axl Rose would come out and like he could, he barely got through some songs. He just can't, you can't sing that high when you're in your 60s or whatever. He's, late
Yeah.
50s or whatever. And so, poor Slash it would just be like you could tell Axel he just can't do anymore. And then here comes Slash, and he's coming out, and he's doing a solo. And then 3 minutes later, here comes Slash, and he's doing another solo.
Yeah.
And he did like at 15 minutes his own thing. He's doing blues and whatever. But he was the reason you went to that show. I mean,
Oh,
Slash
yeah.
was phenomenal, and I didn't realize how good he was. And so that was a really cool to see. Because
Was that your
he's
first
good.
time seeing him?
No, I saw them in the peak '89 when they were
Right.
just on top, and then that was the second time I saw them, and so quite a gap. But it was, yeah, I just didn't realize how good he was with blues and things like that. I thought, he's good on Guns N' Roses songs, but his solo work is great too. But what was his band that he what was that?
Snake
Velvet
Pit.
Revolver.
You're
Velvet
talking Snake Pit.
Revolver, I think that
Yeah.
was the
Miles Kennedy stuff is really
yeah.
good too.
Yeah, that stuff's good. So all his solo work is good, and his guitar work on that is amazing. But just to see him kind of, live and like just feeling it, and just it was really fun. But I don't
Yeah, I
mind
decided
a guitar player that goes too much. I think that's why
I
I'm there.
decided that I'm not gonna go see them anymore, even though they're my favorite band of all time.
Yeah, you know what? This tour was good. I would see them on this. I think they got it together. They figured it out. It's
Set
three
list
hours.
sucked.
They played
It
3 hours, man, and the
Yeah,
set
it
list was
sucked.
great. And
No, it sucked. It
I didn't
sucked.
think so. I didn't
It
think
had
it sucked.
7 cover songs.
Not on
But
this
that's
one.
what Guns N' Roses does.
Not on what I
It's-
saw. I didn't see 7 covers.
Oh
Not
my
on the
God. I don't want to hear
Hollywood
I do not
Bowl.
want to hear Wichita Lineman by Glenn Campbell coming out of Axl's mouth. I don't want to they took out to get
You're
me.
not a fusion guy, are you?
No, look, they took out to get me out of the set list and replaced it with Wichita Lineman.
I mean,
I don't
I
mind.
thought you were a
I
country
don't
guy. I
mind
thought you
them.
were a country guy. What happened?
No, listen, I am a country guy, but I'm also a purist when it comes to that kind of stuff too. Like I understood when Glenn Campbell died and they added it to the set.
Yeah.
That was cool. When Chris Cornell died, they started doing Black Hole Sun. I get it. Weiland dies, they're doing Fall to Pieces or Slither, which is amazing. But you have a great catalog and you're taking out some really, really
Well,
good
I
songs to
see
do
it
that.
like this. I like when you're doing a long set and you got to do a little crowd work, kind of fill the time. I feel like that song, he doesn't have to scream. And so they're like, all right, this is your downtime. And then we'll go to Welcome to the Jungle or something where you got to bring it up a notch. And so I really feel that's what it is. You need some
Could be.
low key songs to get to those crazy songs where he's got to like really blast it out. I really feel you're preserving that voice, man. I think that
I
has a
think
lot to do with it. You
when
got to
you when
slow
you
it down.
when you talked about Slash and his blues style and covers, I think he does a great lead when they did the cover of "Since I Don't Have You."
Yeah.
I mean, he
Yeah. Is that,
really wails on that.
Yeah, I didn't realize I was listening. I was driving and I listened to Illusions 1 and 2, and I didn't realize how many covers were on those things. Oh my God. It was just like there's like 15 covers. It's like-
Listen, I've always been a huge GNR fan, but I'm also that person who does not who doesn't sugarcoat shit. And Use Your Illusion 1 and 2, I mean, has a lot of filler on it. And
it
if you put
does.
it
It
together, if
does.
you put it together, you have one masterpiece, but there's a lot of garbage on those 2 albums.
Yeah, I think it's just they were so popular and they wanted to do something big, and like a Kiss Alive kind of thing. And they just, wanted to just kind of get it out there. They knew people would love it if they loved the band. And so I think it was just kind of one of those, let's do something big and people love us live. So let's record half of it. And, I feel like that's what it was. Just give
The
it
other
to the
thing,
fans.
the other thing, Sean, is they really don't have a deep catalog.
No, they really don't. I mean, that's the thing. But but you don't have to add 7 covers in. You can also throw a bone to like your diehards and do Locomotive or The Garden or Garden of Eden or even something
Yeah.
off of they were doing some deeper stuff off of Appetite that they weren't doing the last time either, which is
Yeah.
side 2 of Appetite is weak, but
Is there any deep cuts off of Appetite? Everything seems to be like a radio friendly song.
no, if they do like Think About You or something like that, like that's not like a
They did
radio,
that one. They did that on
yeah,
there.
not a radio friendly hit or not like a single or
Yeah.
anything like that. But I don't know. I kind of left me with a little bad taste in my mouth for the
When
last
did you see them? When's the last time you saw
last
them?
summer. Last
Oh,
summer,
you did. You saw them. So it was the same
yeah,
set list.
I
Okay.
saw
It might
them.
have been.
I saw Axel with the All Star Band at Roseland, back in the early 2000s, and then when the big tour, came out, I think I saw them 7 times on the first 2
Yeah.
rounds, and then one
Did they
last.
play 3 hours on when
Oh
you saw
yeah,
them?
every
Okay.
time, every
Yeah.
time.
All right.
And they did bring out some great opening acts too, which I thought was great. We saw Lenny Kravitz,
Yeah.
and I think we got Smashing Pumpkins, if I'm not mistaken.
Oh, that's great. Yeah.
Who did
Those
you
I
see
was
them with, Dustin?
Black Keys is one of my favorite bands. So that was
They
awesome.
opened.
Yeah, they opened
Oh,
for them. And
wow.
that's a fun mix because it's like, you normally don't see that. I mean, that's what's fun about GNR. I mean, they had Chris Stapleton open once. So it's like,
Yeah.
they're doing, cool stuff, trying to like switch it up a little bit with the audience. But I get where you are. It's like, but nobody's 20 anymore. So I get why, the set lists are what they are, and they're just trying to give the best show they can. And I thought they put on a great show. I could sit there and say, oh, his voice or whatever, and this and that, but it was a good show, man. If it just brings that nostalgia back. I thought they were better now than they were when I saw them in '89. I felt like they didn't have the cohesiveness, and they weren't like, Axel cracked his voice 5 songs in when I saw him at Dallas Cowboy Stadium. It was just like, so, just I don't know. It's a good time. That's all I'm saying. It's just not, when you hear Sweet Child of Mine, it's so hard not to just freak the fuck out. And you hear Night Train and Night Train, but and just Brownstone and all that stuff. I don't know. I had a good time. To me, I don't expect too much at 60.
I actually said the first time I saw them, I actually went to Philadelphia with an old friend because I didn't want anybody in this area that could have seen me, because I knew how I was going to get. And I was like, look, if I'm going to go see them for the real first time, and this was like maybe 6-7 years ago, I said, there's a very good chance that you're going to see me cry. And people were like, oh, ain't gonna happen, ain't gonna happen. And I will never forget it. It was literally the first notes of It's So Easy. He's going, dun, 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 dun. And I'm like,
oh, what a pussy. Stop it.
I bawled my eyes out. It was great.
Yeah, mine was Night Train, because I used to play this PlayStation 1 game. Like a motorcycle game, and it's like you hit people with chains and stuff. They're trying to come up on you, and they did the soundtrack, and the soundtrack's phenomenal. And those early PlayStation games, they look great soundtrack. But anyway,
now that's called Driving in Philadelphia.
That's the name of the song.
No,
Driving in Philadelphia. Oh,
that's what it's called now.
LA too, man. It's crazy out here.
I'll be out there soon enough, Dustin.
Gotta have your chains. Oh, I like it. You moving?
No, I'm coming out for a long weekend. I'm
nice.
Jeffrey knows. We interviewed a great guest, Andre from Morris Day and the Time.
Oh,
and we hit it off. We became friends, and
nice.
There was a drunken night after one of his shows, and there may have been a little Mother Nature involved in that as well, when he introduced me to his fiance. And I was like, well, this is I can marry you if you guys get married. And then I got a phone call like 5 months later. Hey, you still into marrying us?
Oh,
so
wow,
I'm officiating. I'm flying out to officiate his wedding, and then we're going to watch the Super Bowl. And then I think
nice.
I'm going to try and squeeze in going to see the Black Pumas at the Wiltern.
Great.
They're playing the Wiltern the night that I fly in.
So that's phenomenal. I'm going to be very disappointed if Jerome is not the best man.
Here's the thing, and I'm calling on. I'm calling on.
He has to show up with a mirror and like in the middle of the wedding. I'm going to be very disappointed.
He's the sweetest man I've ever met in my life. Number one. But I'm going to call my buddy Andre out, because he doesn't realize what he's doing, because he booked a gig the night before with Morris Day and the Time. I mean, they told him, hey, you don't have to do this one because you're getting married the next day. Why don't you sit this one out? We got somebody to fill in. He goes, no, I'm going to do it. I'm like, great, let's go to the show beforehand. We'll have a great time. And he goes, the show's in Kansas City. I go, so you're telling me you're playing in Kansas City, Missouri on a Friday night in the middle of the fucking snow belt in the middle of February, and you think that you're going to walk off stage and get round to a plane with no delays and fly to LA so you can get married? So there's a very good chance that I'm going to be marrying him while he's on FaceTime at the airport in the Kansas City.
I just hope they still have private jet money. That's really all I want out of Morris Day and the Time.
You do not have
I don't know if they have Uber money.
I don't know if that Greyhound's going to make it, but it's going to be a great story. You got to. It's all about the stories.
Let's talk a little bit about Dustin. All right, because I really do want to catch up with you, man. I mean, 2023. Sure. From my perspective that was a big year for you, dude. You had a Dry Bar special come out.
Yes, a lot of fun.
You were on tour, it seemed like endlessly, between Nate Bargatze and TJ. What was your impression of 2023 for you?
It was great. I feel like old guys still have it. It's like it's funny with stand up. I feel like you feel like you kind of age out and whatnot. And coming to LA and kind of rearranging my life a little bit opened up a lot of great opportunities, and it's just been fun. I just felt like things started falling into place. I started kind of becoming a better comic, and just kind of relook kind of just looking at my stuff and looking at what I was doing on stage and kind of trying to take it to another level and just
You started working clean.
cleanish, I that's an interesting thing because I don't even think of Nate Bargatze as a clean comic. I just think of him as a comic, I mean, it's if you watch like his early stuff, it's like he's talking about being drunk and like naked in a hotel hallway and stuff like that. So it's not like clean in the sense of like corny church clean. It's just we don't say F bomb and we don't talk about licking pussy, but I feel like it's like I'm still edgy and I still talk about what I want to talk about and addiction and what all these things I'm dealing with. And so I feel like I did kind of, not go for the cheap laughs. And I think comedy clubs sometimes, we're dealing with animals, we're up there, we're like, they're half drunk. They half now with all the TikTok stuff. They want to be a part of the crowd work. They want to yell out stuff so they, are involved. And so I think a lot of that stuff creates habits. And so the habits are, or you maybe go a little dirty or whatever. And so I think I just kind of, just kind of grew out of that a little bit and just started playing these places where, it's funny. You play these arenas and stuff and you're out there and there's like 15,000 people or whatever. And it's like, you look out and there's like, a whole family, you got mom, dad, the kids, Nana. And so the material, it has to kind of resonate and not, offend the crowds in front of you. And so I just learned to kind of take my life and realize I can still be funny without having to like go down certain roads blue and stuff. And so yeah, it's been interesting, but I feel like it's when you take that out, you become you have to be a little smarter on how you're going to deliver your material with what kind of punchlines and things. So it just made me a better comic, just having to, and the money's great, so I'll sell out to anything that's good money.
No,
So,
but you really had to wear. I mean, like you're a hack guy, but you had to really wear different hats here. Like, let's take for example, when you in October when you were here for Radio City, you
yeah,
played Radio City, which had to be
yes.
the biggest thrill for you. But then the same weekend, weren't you headlining nightclub? You were doing like one of the governor's
Governors,
rooms. Okay,
the not good one. What was that?
uh, you what, McGuire's
No, what's the
the
other one?
what's the one
No, it's
what's
a
the one
good one.
sauce?
I'm just kidding. No, please
Okay.
book me again. Um,
No, but
I forget.
to
Yeah,
go from doing a nightclub, which was maybe have 150, 200 people, to
yeah.
doing Radio City, which has about 8,000 people. Okay. I mean, does anything change?
Yeah, it changes a lot. Club mentality is you're a little more interactive. You slow down a lot. I feel like you can kind of take some risk with kind of going off cuff and whatnot. And then when you're in a place like Radio City, which is not the best place for stand up, I mean, Nate agreed that the Beacon is way better and things like that. Far as because it's so crazy, you go out there and it's like this straight row of people and then it's like three balconies all the way up,
Yeah.
and so it's just the weirdest thing. You're just like, I feel like an arena feels more comfortable because it's just, at least it's I don't know, there's something about the three-tier balcony. But I think you're bigger, you're a little quicker, but at the same time you got to wait on the punches because there's a roll of laughter coming, and if you don't wait on it you might step on those laughs and stuff. So yeah, I mean, it's just something that it never feels right. It's ridiculous. Like I'm still terrified every time there's like 10,000 people. It's not something I'm getting used to. You get up, there's a freaking jumbo. I feel like I should have a guitar with a band behind me playing that many people. It doesn't feel right that you're just telling jokes and there's thousands of people in front of you. But I am getting a little more confident with it. And, Nate's really great because he, allows us to kind of do new stuff. And I tell you, there's nothing crazier than that. We're like, I'm work out new stuff in front of like 11,000. And so, but that's the vibe because, he's a New York guy. We're all his New York guys. And so I feel like he wants it to feel like it's, kind of that energy of, 2000s when we were in New York together and stuff. And so, yeah, it's definitely changes, but like I said, I never know what's going to happen until I get out there. Music saves me. I listen to a lot of GNR before I go up. I just put the headsets on. I kind of do my, Eminem thing. I'm just, I try to pump myself up, and then I just hope that it goes well. But at the same time, the end of the day, they're there to see him. So you don't have to put this pressure to be this amazing guy, but it goes well, you get good fans out of it, and everybody wants to crush it. And so, but there is something when a joke does land with that many people, it's the greatest feeling in the world. So
Is there a host?
There, I kind
Are
of,
you are
yeah.
you the first guy on stage?
No, I usually, well, sometimes we'll rotate out. There'll be like three of us or two of us, and if there's three of us, usually, somebody like Julian McCullough will like he'll host it, and then like me and Vecchione or me and Nick Novicki or whoever's on the tour, we usually, but sometimes we'll just do like a tag team, and then and then we go off stage, and then Nate comes out like he's Aerosmith. The lights go down, the music's playing, the lights you got like a strobe light,
Is the
the
arena
whole thing.
full when you go on?
Yeah, yeah.
Like
It's
not like an
that
opening
that is
band?
the advantage to a family friendly comedian. People aren't straggling in, half drunk from the parking lot, So it's like people are in their seats with their kids, So it's like, it's every you might get a little bit of somebody getting to their seat, but they treat comic. I feel like, because the way we treat opening bands in this country is just atrocious.
Absolutely.
It's like it's just so many people there to see their band, and you miss so many good bands because you're just in your head that they suck. And so there is a lot of that, and
True.
then these bands go on to be the biggest bands ever, but you just don't give them the chance when you don't feel like you know them or whatever. And so I feel comedy fans of that magnitude are a little more kind of, open to you as opposed to just, it's just the opening people. And so I feel there's a good vibe with it.
I have
So
full confidence in my career that I will get to like a level of Nate, where I can do, bigger 8, 10, 15,000 seat places. But, I promise you one thing. The first person that I call when I get this, the first person that I call is Jeffrey Paul.
yeah, I'm gonna be holding my breath for that. Okay,
No,
so
no, I am dead serious. The first person I call when I'm
thank
looking
you.
for opening acts is Jeffrey Paul, because I know you know a lot of people and you can give me a good recommendation.
Yeah, I'm gonna keep
You have
this
to
in
be
mind.
likable first, guys. I just want you to know. Nate's very likable. You guys got to work on your inner self.
he I told you he was like when I first started comedy, he was like one of the first people I ever met, and he
Yeah,
helped me my first year before he
yeah,
moved.
yeah. He did
Um,
a little coaching. I remember that. Yeah.
so you also worked with TJ Miller in 2023, and I know
A
way
little
before
bit.
that.
That's kind of slowing down a little bit. I'm starting to headline more. And so yeah, we were doing quite a few clubs together. This year, I kind of branched out and kind of got into some more mainstream comedy clubs on my own, headlining and stuff. And so, yeah, we're still
Is
good
that an
buddies.
effect of the Bagazzi tour?
No, that's just me just hustling, man. That's
Okay.
just that's the thing about like comics that are like, oh, I don't want to feature, I want a headline or whatever. It's like, if you get a chance to play a good club with a good comic and has a big fan base, it's like take it, take it even if the money's not great or whatever, because that's the thing, it's your showcase for the club. And so you go in, you crush it for 30 minutes, and they're like, oh, this guy could headline. You want to come back and do your
Oh,
own show and
absolutely.
whatever.
You're a
It's
killer anyway. So I
I
mean,
appreciate it, and that's how I approach those shows. Every time I did something with, because TJ, it was mostly comedy clubs, and so that's how, I knew I could kind of jump to that if I just kind of had great shows and made a good impression on the owners and bookers and talked to people, and that's kind of how I got Dry Bar. I opened for him in Salt Lake City at the Wise Guys there, and that guy runs all the Dry Bar specials and stuff, and so and it was funny that it's Salt Lake, and you don't really have to be clean or whatnot. But I chose to be clean the first night, and it was the only night I was clean. And it was the only night he watched me, this guy. And so every other night I was filthy. I was talking about being a Mormon and jerking off, like all this ridiculous stuff. But the first night, and he was the only night he was there. He didn't even wasn't there. And then we talked about, and I asked, which that's the thing in comedy. It's like I talk about this. Everybody thinks it's about punchlines and being the next Bill Burr. It's also about knowing when to ask and when to kind of know that you're ready for things. And I think that's so hard for us as comics because it's like we don't want to look like an annoying guy. But I remember I just did the set and he seemed to like me. And I said, hey, man, I know you do that Dry Bar. Could I send you a 20-minute whatever? And then he just booked me on the spot. And because I asked. And so I feel like that was a big moment for me because that's what I struggle with a lot is asking people for things when I don't want to be that annoying guy because I ran shows for so long. And so I know how annoying that is. But, that's kind of how I got the Dry Bar.
speaking of annoying, this is my favorite. This is my favorite thing. Is like people knew I was friends with you, okay?
Yeah.
And they was like, how do I approach Dustin? And I always would tell a story that I once saw that, and this probably happened to you a million times. So Dustin used to run Greenwich Village Comedy Club, And like, it wasn't a very big club, and you'd be waiting like really in the audience when they were about to call you up. And so Dustin is a guy who gets in his head. He's focused. He's getting himself, inside ready to go on stage. And then some open micer or some new comic would come up to him as he's about to go on. Hey man, what do I have to do to get on the show? And Dustin be like, "What the fuck you talking to me like this now for?" He's like, "I'm about to get on." And it's like that's the worst thing you could ever do to Dustin. The number one pet
Yeah.
peeve of him is that, and you just did it.
Yeah, I mean, the pandemic was terrible for a lot of people, but it was good for me because I got to realize I'd never wanted to do that again. I never wanted to be staff of a comedy club, and I just wanted to be a comic. And so, yeah, I mean, comics, I get it. Comics are eager, and everybody wants a shot, and it is okay to ask. But that's not the time. And I always feel like and I have a problem with guys like that. It's like you need to be sitting in the audience watching the comedians before you even ask for anything. And that's because nobody wants to learn from the comics. They just want to get their shot. So yeah, I think there's a time and a place, and that was definitely not the time. But I'd be at other clubs, and I'd be about to go on like a totally different club that I'm just passed at, and somebody would come up before I go
Like the
on,
comic
or
strip.
Stamp New York, West Side,
Because I
any of
think
those
I saw it
clubs.
at the comic strip as well.
Yeah, but people would just, and I get it. People just see you as like a ATM spot machine. It's like, oh, you got the spots. He got the spot, and it's like, and I never, because I was the king of the bar shows. I used to just run my own bar shows. I had the best bar shows in town, and that's how I came to running shows. I was just, I was the first person to do comedy at the Village Lantern. When I got there, it was just an open mic on Mondays, and they had no shows. It was all music. And I just started, doing comedy shows there with the same model of handing out flyers and all that stuff. Kind of started a little bit of that, and then we had Patrice O'Neill and Greg Giraldo. I mean, the stacked. They would come over from the cellar. It'd just be the best lineup, and then clubs started kind of wanting me to kind of run shows, and that's when Boston Comedy Club, the
Right.
legendary Boston Comedy Club, was they had fired their guy that ran the shows and whatever, and my club, the Village Lantern was so successful, they were like, hey, you want to run the thing? So there was a moment in time, probably about a year and a half, I ran both clubs. I ran the Boston Comedy Club on West 3rd, and then I ran the Village Lantern on Bleecker. And I would start one show and then run over to the other club and start that show, stay for a little while, and then run back to the Lantern. So I was just like going back and forth running shows. And so I came king of comedy, king of the village, was what I was. I was the guy. And that's when Al Martin was like, because I'd run shows for him too at the Broadway Comedy Club. We did like uncensored comedy. That's where Nate and all those guys were involved. And then he asked if they knew I was good about, he knew I knew the area. And so he asked me to run the Greenwich. And that was probably one of the hardest things I ever had to, I had to choose, because it was like I was passed at the cellar.
Right.
And it was like this weird thing where I was just like, it's like if I go over here, I create my own scene. I can get as much stage time as I want. I can book all these guys that I think are funny. But if I leave the cellar, I'm leaving the cellar. And so that was a tough, thing. I had to sit down with them. It made the New York Times. Like it was a whole just, shit show. And I ended up kind of just going with Greenwich. And I don't know if it was a good decision or not. I still think about it. If I
Well,
had just
think
been
about
over
how
there,
many.
became better friends with Amy Schumer, maybe this would be a different life for me.
No, that's not true because you
Be Martin Norman.
but think about how many careers you really kind of like started off at Greenwich. Because the funny thing that used to be about Greenwich, you'd book these shows on a Saturday night, and I was fortunate enough to get on some of them. And like some of the people who you would see on those shows on a Saturday night, maybe a year and a half, 2 years later, were getting on HBO, or they were getting then past that to sell. I remember guys like
Yeah.
Ricky Velez, Mike Lawrence. I mean, like
Yeah.
all these guys you were bringing in, and these were like incredible shows.
Yeah, I think the problem with comedy is not enough good comics run shows. And if you're a solid comic, then you know comedy. If you're not a solid comic, or you've never done comedy, you're just some random booker at a club, then you don't really know talent. And so unless you've grabbed a microphone, you really don't know what a good set is. You just don't. I don't care if you're Mitzi Shore or Esty or whoever. If you've never grabbed a microphone, you're going to be missing a little bit of what you see in someone. And I think the fact that I was in the trenches with everybody, I was at the other clubs, I was on the road with people, I knew who was funny. And that was my standard, was like, we're going to have just as good a show with not even close to the budget as the big club next door. And so that was my mentality. And then I feel like I'm the George Carlin of spotting talent. Like everybody that I chose ended up, kind of Pete Davidson and, like, Mike and Nate and all these guys, everybody just kind of blew up because, they needed somebody to believe in them early. And I think if you do comedy, you see that early thing, whereas a lot of bookers miss it because, like, some people get nervous when you try to audition for a club. Maybe the crowd sucks, maybe whatever. Like a person that doesn't grab the mic all the time doesn't take those things in consideration. Like I would have people I passed just that bombed, but I still thought they were funny because, I saw something. And so, yeah, I pride myself in that. I mean, now it's my time. Like I don't need to take care of everybody anymore. But that was a good, I feel like it's good to do that. I feel all the great comics and bands did that stuff, like Kiss took care of it, Van Halen, and certain bands took care of other bands. And, I think that's how it should be. When you have the power to do that, you should use it in that way instead of being, using it to, like, manipulate and all that stuff, which a lot of people abuse the power of being the gatekeeper, if you will. But I tell you what, I got exhausted towards the end there. So it's a good thing that I don't do that anymore. I
I
love
remember
taking care of people, but I never want to take care of people again.
there were Saturday nights we were doing 4 shows.
Yeah,
We started
it
at
was
6 and
great.
you would end at like for the 12:30.
Yeah.
So how much of Crashing was actually based on like what you actually kind of put out there between the Boston and the Village Lantern?
It was kind of truth fictional,
Did he work for you, Pete?
Uh, I mean, he handed out. Yeah, he's a guy I took care of. He handed out flyers, and I moved him up to MC and kind of booked him on the road and things like that. So, yeah, he was one of my young guys, him and Nate and some other guys. And so, yeah, I mean, they did it. It was kind of a weird thing. I wish they had done it in the time that it was happening. Instead, what they tried to do is they made Boston Comedy Club in a modern day setting, which I thought was weird because the best part was, a very young Chappelle and a very young, just like, Geraldo or young Louis, and like all that stuff was more interesting to me. I thought that wish they would have actually done it in the time that the time frame of everything happening. But, the thing about the barking was great. Just comics just paying dues was pretty cool. I mean, I think he moved pretty fast to,
You think he
to
wound up
like,
being a warm-up
yeah.
comic in the third episode?
Yeah. So stuff like that was a little much, but there were guys that did kind of get it quick. There were guys that I mean, Pete Davidson got it pretty quick. And there were guys that just, like, they did one thing. Some guys saw them, boom, 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 boom. Next thing you know, they're on Wild and Out or whatever, and they're doing stuff. And so that did happen for some guys, but, that wasn't Pete's story. But I thought he did a great job. It was an honor to be a part of it. I got to play myself, which was fun. And so, yeah, anytime you get an HBO credit, it's pretty great. So, but I thought they did a decent job. They made my character kind of a combination of other characters. It was like 5 guys in 1 or 4 guys in 1 or something. And so it was a little bit of me and Dub David off, and a little bit of, like, some other guy, Brian, I forget the guy who also helped me run the place, or own the place, but Barry Katz and some of those guys. But yeah, it was good. I thought it was, it's nice to see, some people see how hard it is to get stage time, which is, I think, the kind of what they were trying to depict with the barking and all that stuff.
You moved to LA kind of like during the pandemic, like when we were in the midst of it.
Yeah, kind of
Yeah,
towards the tail end. Yeah.
right.
Kind of
What do you find right now?
Optional.
What's your impression? Biggest difference between New York and LA and the comedy scene?
Um, I think the biggest thing is just like, I mean, New York is the best place in the world to do stand-up comedy. It just always will be. It's the best place to start, in my opinion. If you're a big fish in a little town, get out of that town immediately and go get humbled in New York, because it'll make you a great comic. And I think the amount of stage time that you can get in New York is just priceless. You can't, I mean, it's just unbelievable. I mean, you could do 6 spots a night if you're lucky. There's so many clubs, there's so many independent shows. And so I feel New York has that. LA is the kind of place where you may not get that kind of reps. You won't get the stage time, but what you will get, I remember being in New York for a really long time, and I would crush a lot and nobody ever cared. I would just destroy and nobody ever saw it, and nobody, there was nobody in the crowd. It's not like the 70s where Johnny Carson's in the back smoking a cigarette, and next thing you know, you're famous. But what's good about LA, you might just do a 5-minute spot. You might get 3 spots for the week or 4 spots for the week if you're lucky. But when you get off stage, somebody from Warner Brothers might be there because everything's here. And so you have a relationship with somebody who's in TV, and then like, hey, can you pitch my thing? And so those kind of like, I feel you aim a little higher in LA. Like, it's not just about being a stand-up. You're here
That's
to
right.
pitch a show. You're here to do something bigger. So I like that energy of LA. So I think that's where you might lack a little bit in reps of getting up on stage. Your connections to people and bigger things are kind of, I feel, more out here.
So that leads me to my next question here. You moved to LA, but you're never in LA because you're on the road all the time, it seems like. So what does 2024 bring to you now? Now that you're branching out on your own, maybe need to start taking a back seat a little bit, take a little time off to write some more material. So now that leaves you open for you. So what's the plan for 2024?
Well, I have quite a few tour dates with Nate coming up, and I'm in February, April. We have big tours coming up, and so I have plenty of road work coming up, and just trying to. I want to do a new special. I'm trying to do something that's kind of more geared towards my addiction story and growing up in the 70s and 80s, my dysfunctional family, and kind of the ridiculousness of my life, and kind of how addiction kind of played a role and things like that. So I kind of want to do something dedicated to that, and so that's kind of my big 2024 is writing that special. And so just concentrating on that, and just working and coaching and whatever. I'm a hustler, so it's just, I'm not, it's like however I can make money through the guise of comedy, I'll do it.
Yeah,
except book a club.
Listen, you did that you had to do that for close to 20 years, right?
Yeah, I've been doing comedy when it was black and white. I've been in this a long time, man. But I don't feel like I have, because I feel like I'm a better comic this week than I was, 3 years ago, and so I think that's the beauty of comedy. If you can get better each time, and so I learn from every single set, a Zoom set, 10 people in the crowd, 12,000 people in the crowd. It doesn't matter to me. Every time I get up, it's something I can work on.
You said something before I want to change the topic. You're a very resilient guy, because during the pandemic, when I was doing parking lot shows and speakeasy, secret shows. Dustin did a Zoom album. He did.
Yeah, that was a lot of fun, man. That was probably the hardest thing I ever did, and I got it on Sirius XM, and that was the goal. I said I'm not going to be able to make money, doing comedy clubs, and so how can I, and I'd started doing some shows, Rye Daddy and Adam Hunter and all these guys were doing Zoom shows, and I was like writing a lot of material, and I was like, man, I should just do a new album, and if I could do it on Zoom. And I did a show on Comedy Hub, and Jay from Comedy Hub reached out. He said, I really like your stuff or whatever. And then I pitched the idea. So once you record it, we'll try to do a Zoom album. And then our friend of the show, Anthony Kapfer, he's really good at like producing and editing stuff. And so he produced my first album. He did all the editing and stuff on that. And so I said, let's try to do this Zoom thing. And it came out great. I feel like I was very happy with it. The laughs are there, you could tell it's a Zoom, but it's not gargled. Like, it doesn't sound like everybody sounds like Darth Vader when they laugh or anything. Like it sounds like a rich album. Like, there's people and the beats are there and people are laughing, but I enjoyed it. And the best part was I had poster boards, and I just had all my material on it. So nobody could see that I was just like looking at my stuff as I go down.
That was the great thing about doing a Zoom show.
Yeah. I literally wrote it in like 3 months, all new material. And then I just had it kind of just because I had nowhere to work it out really, except a Zoom here or there. Right. So I literally had it, and it was, my girl's family, they're potters. So they had this big barn area. So basically, recorded it in a barn and just and it was funny because I wasn't around people at all because we were all like away from people. And so I guess I call her my mother-in-law. We've been together 18 years, but she had all these hats with mannequin heads that had hats on them and stuff. And I said, how funny would it be to just put mannequin heads in front of me so I
It's
feel like
amazing.
there's an audience?
That's so
And
good.
so I was literally in front of the screen, all these mannequin heads. And so I do a little crowd work to the mannequin head to be silly or whatever. But it did make me feel like there was an audience in front of me, because after you start to get into your material, you forget that there's like fake heads in front of you. but it kind of put me in a zone where it was like, I'm just doing a set. And I was able to, I did 2 shows and we pieced it together, and I'm really proud of it, and I made money off of it. And yeah, it was one of those, we had to figure it out. It was like, I think everybody had a podcast. That was the big thing everybody did. And then
Right.
I feel like this is one of the things that's like, yeah, I want to make money, quick money. And so, yeah, and I was so happy when they put it on Sirius. So it was
Yeah,
great. And
it was
shout out to Comedy Records. They did a great job getting
it
it
was a
there.
very original, like again, it was just taking a risk and taking a chance, which is something is admirable. So you're living out in LA. The lifestyle seems to agree with you. You love it.
Oh, I
But
love it.
you've also gotten into the music scene a little bit. You've been going to shows. Who have you seen live out there?
Well, first of all, I've been in music scene my entire life. At 7 years old, I saw Led Zeppelin with my mother. So I've been an allegiant fan to rock music my entire life. I'm fortunate my parents were into good music. Yeah, I do like the scene. And that's one thing that, like, when I got to New York, it was, I came there for college back in, the early, like the mid late 90s. And CBGB's was there, Continental was there, Coney Island High. So that rock and roll scene was there. And it kind of bleeded out. There's not a lot of, so there's some good rock clubs maybe in Brooklyn and here and there, but it's tough to find a good rock club. And then I was always fascinated with the LA scene, which is, Rainbow Room and Viper Room and all these,
The Sunset Strip.
yeah, it's all that's all the songs, half the songs mention the Sunset Strip. And so I'm excited about that. Yeah, I go to some punk clubs. I just saw, I love the Bobby Lees. I think they're just a
Okay.
phenomenal rock band. They're one of the top 10 shows I've ever seen. Every time I see them, they're phenomenal. If you get a chance, the Bobby Lees, not to mix it up with the comedian Bobby Lee, but
Yeah, they play the Mercury when they come to New York.
they're so fun, man. I'm telling you, you'll go nuts. I mean, they'll think you're security when you're there. Everybody's a child, but it's a good time. But I'm always leaning up. I'm the only one not in the mosh pit. I'm just leaning up against the wall. But yeah, I love the scene out here, and the record stores are great. Neva Records and like
You're
all these
there all the
independent
time.
record stores. Yeah, so it's like it's a good. If you're gonna move out of New York, you got to move to somewhere that's hip and cool and a good time. And then I tell you, the weather ain't bad either. So, it's like 70 degrees today. So, it's like that helps a lot. And I do like the lifestyle. Hiking every day, my dog, and all that stuff. So.
I,
First time I ever went to Amoeba, I actually had to ship everything back because I
That's a
bought
good
so much,
sign.
I
I
oh,
bought
love
shit.
it.
so
I
much
love it.
vinyl out there. I could,
Well,
there was
when you're
just,
out here, let's hit a store together. I'd love to see you.
I'm
I don't
totally
think,
down.
yeah, I think I've seen
Two,
you in
two,
years.
2 weeks, 2 weeks.
Yeah,
Listen,
let me know. Hit me up.
I look at the two of you as music purists.
Yeah.
Okay. So this has been like a big thing. It's been in the news for a while, but it's becoming more prevalent now. It's more prevalent, it's more acceptable. But what's your opinion on bands using backing tracks? Because there was an instant that I forget the name of the band, but their whole set was on a laptop, and then their van was broken into, their truck was broken into, and they took their computers and they had to cancel the show. Okay. um if you're a musician, if you're a band, you should be able to play and not have to rely on a computer. There's been accusations of Kiss doing this. Wasp is doing this on their most recent tours. So what do you guys stand? Where do you stand on bands using backing tracks?
Well, who was the band? Was it 21 Pilots or something? Was it some sort of?
No, it wasn't a band as big as that.
Okay. Um, yeah. I mean, well, you should always have backup. I mean, it's like you should always have one in your pocket. I think if that's going to be your your van full of instruments, then you should have backup at all
But are you
times.
okay with a band playing off it?
Yeah, I mean,
Really?
Kraftwerk and like Depeche Mode. I mean, there's so many bands that use
Depeche
like
Mode played their
computers and stuff.
instruments.
Yeah, but there's some computer effects involved. There's a lot of music that is, a synthesizer is basically a computer, a computer piano, it's
Dustin,
got yeah.
Dua Lipa. Okay, am I saying her name right? Dua
Dua
Lipa.
Lipa, you fucking mook. Dua Lipa.
She dropped her microphone. Okay, and then she went to go pick it up. She kicked it. Okay, and the vocal is still going. You're paying for a record. I'm not okay with that.
I gotta
Well,
tell you,
why
I
did
saw Shine
go ahead.
Down. I saw Shine Down a bunch of years ago. I'm a big fan of them. I like them a
Me
lot.
too. They're great, very
I,
underrated.
I saw them. I've seen them since like the second album when they were just a little tiny club band, and they opened
Yeah,
up for
they're great.
Seether and blew Seether out of the water, and I was like, this band's gonna be big. Then they break out with Sound of Madness, and then I saw them at PNC Arts Center one time, and my buddy's a huge fan. We're standing next to each other, and I'm looking and I'm going, you realize this guy's fucking lip syncing, right?
Oh,
And I never would have thought that at all. But then, like, again, same kind of thing. Running around on stage, if you're gonna lip sync, hey, make sure you do the job right. Keep the goddamn microphone near your mouth, because he can turn you back to the crowd, and no one's gonna have an idea that you're lip syncing. But if you're running around and your microphone's down by your side of your pants, and you can still hear the vocals,
be a good lip
that's all.
syncer if you're gonna do it.
That kind of shit bothers me. If you're a rock band, I think if you're
Yeah,
an electronic band
yeah,
or a solo act or stuff like that, I
yeah,
think you have a little more leeway with
yeah.
playing to a track or something like that. But if you're like a straight up rock band and stuff like that, I don't know. I have a very big problem with that.
Yeah, when I said computer assisted, I did not mean lip syncing. That's not what I'm.
Yeah.
That's not what I'm endorsing at all. I do feel. I mean, I know Jeff and we've disagreed a little bit on like Kiss and bands like that, and that have maybe some backtrack vocals going on during the show. I feel that's
The
okay.
whole set is on computer.
Yeah, but he's singing though. He's Paul
Singing along
Stanley's
with the track.
Well, he's singing though. He's singing. It might be to keep him on track, but he's singing. You can't tell me Paul Stanley wasn't singing.
It's enhancing his singing.
Okay, well, it's
Yeah.
like I said, 60 something,
Okay,
so
yeah, well, 70 something now.
70 something, yeah.
So when I go see like a Jeff Tate, or I'm going to go see Sebastian Bach, Priest now, guys who are vocalists, guys who are singers. I don't want. I want to hear the imperfections. I want to hear the voice.
I
I
agree.
don't want to hear the backing track.
I
But
agree.
in Kiss's
I-
case, I get it.
A lot of
Yeah.
that has to do with ego too, I think. That they
It's
want
ego.
they don't want to
It's
sound
also-
like they're not the way they were 20, 30 years ago either.
Yeah, it's also arenas. I mean, just doing stand up in that type of space is like it's incredibly like overwhelming, and I think they want it to be this big thing, and they want everybody to hear the sound the way it sounds on the record and stuff like that. So I see giving it a little extra push, to kind of make it big and explosive in an arena. But yeah, I mean, some guys keep their voice. I just saw the Cult on Howard Stern. Ian Astbury, he still sounded amazing. He still sounded like he did on the album, back in 25 years ago. He still sounded great. Some guys keep it, some guys don't. I think Mick Jagger still sounds pretty good. Their new album is good, and so some guys can keep it. But yeah, I think I would open up the show like if that's the case where you feel like, all right, you're doing this live show, I would the coolest thing ever would to see an artist come up and be like, hey guys, we're about to start the show. Just want you to know, I'm I can't quite sing as good as I could. We're gonna have some backtrack a little bit, so don't get weird. It's not karaoke. I'm gonna be singing, but you might hear a little whatever. Don't put it on the internet. You can make a joke out of it. Don't make me a TikTok meme or whatever, and then just go, here we go, and then you just start it, and so everybody kind of gets it. But they never do that. They try to like
100%
hide it, and that's when you try to hide something from like a fan base. That's when you're gonna get in trouble. If you're honest about it, nobody's gonna give a shit.
Dustin, you ever see Chris Stapleton live?
I'm going to see him live in June, so yeah,
Okay,
I'm excited.
So I want you to really watch. I've seen him, I think 6 times now. Watch him, and then when you're listening, you're gonna be like, this guy sounds exactly like the record.
Yeah.
Like there is no faking how just monumentally talented this guy is. When you go see Jeff, I don't know if you're a fan of his or not, or you know who he is.
I'm a moderate fan. I think he has a tour coming up over the summer, like he's doing an amphitheater with like a real diverse, interesting bill, right?
Yeah, like he does it every year, and I get tend to go every year, but he's so talented and he's so good that you truly think that you're just listening to the CD or you're listening to the
Oh,
vinyl.
I will say this. I'll go against my own stuff here. Rock singing is way harder than country singing. I mean,
Sure.
you're almost talking when you do country, and so it's a lot harder to freaking hit those notes, man. When you're doing like
Yeah,
Welcome to the Jungle or something, it's like that's a lot harder to hit than it is, Tennessee whiskey. You know what I mean? Like it's a little bit. So yeah, I think that's guys like that. Yeah, they're gonna sound like the record because it's you're not having to kind of scream into a microphone. So I think, yeah, that is the advantage to kind of more loungy or country or something that's a little more low key. I think they don't need all those effects.
I'm also a big fan of cover versions of songs, and I think we may have covered this on a Dustin's Vinyl episode. But what comes some of you what comes to mind for you? Either things you discovered or cover songs that you like. If you had to name two or three, what would you say is like a cover song that you would want to turn people on to?
There's Cowboy Junkies, Sweet Jane has always been one of my favorites.
Oh wow.
That's a great version of that. Lou Reed has said himself, he goes, it sounds better than I did, and it's amazing. I just got the Chris Cornell, just kind of the extras of songs that he did like at Sirius XM and all that. All his covers are amazing on that. Nothing compares to you on that is the most
Excellent.
beautiful thing you'll ever hear. It's so great. And yeah, I'm trying to think what else, but Motorhead, Louie, is that the song Louie? What I
Mhm.
forget what.
They do a
Yeah,
great
that
version of Heroes too by David
yeah.
Bowie.
Yeah, that was good. So yeah, I like any band that is. I'm not, I don't hate on the covers, but I do feel that like when you put it on an album, I think it's cheating. But live, I think it's great. I'm
There's a
not a
guy I
big
want
fan.
to check out. There's a guy named Mac Glocky. So it's
Yeah.
Macglocky. So this guy does covers in a way that I've never seen before. He takes requests from people, but what he'll do is he'll say, "Can you play this song in the style of this band?"
Mm.
And the
Oh,
guy
I've
does.
seen that.
Oh, but he does a version of Rock Lobster in the style of System of a Down.
Oh, that's cool.
Just weird shit like that. He'll do
Yeah, I
he'll
love
say, "Can
that.
you do Semi-Charmed Life by Third Eye Blind in the style of Incubus?" But
Metallica. Yeah.
changes his voice and his whole playing and everything to sound like those guys, though, which I think is really super talented.
Yeah, I think my all-time favorite cover, Sturgill Simpson does that '80s hit "Promise," and I'll
Oh, that's
promise you.
great. You turned us
And
on to that time.
yeah, Sturgill Simpson, he's great. If you like Chris Stapleton, you'll love
Yeah.
Sturgill.
Oh,
But
I love him.
yeah, Sturgill's great. But that cover is, it's just, I mean, when he gets to the chorus, it's heart wrenching. It's so good. But yeah, when I do like it when like a country singer sings like a Prince song, or Dwight Yoakam does a great Purple Rain as well. And so when you see a different genre covering it, I think that is always a good time. I
What'd
enjoy
you think
that.
of Dolly Parton's new record?
God bless her. She's Dolly Parton. She's Dolly Parton. So it's
You
hard
know,
to
it was I
critique her, but
downloaded it. It was 30 songs,
yeah,
right? And
yeah,
listen, sometimes her voice is a little too screechy. I understand that, but some of the
yeah.
song choices she did was great. Then I get a notification the other day. It says the deluxe version is released. I'm like, she fucking put out 30. What kind of deluxe version is she put? It was nine more songs. She did
Yeah, and
39 songs.
I had a tough time with that one. I didn't buy it or anything. Because I
Uh,
love Dolly. Dolly broke my heart once. I told Jeff I
It's a
bought
great
tickets to
story.
see.
Tell the
I
story.
got well. I mean, I'll shorten it, but I got tickets to see Dolly Parton and for my girlfriend's birthday, and we were so excited. And it was the Hammerstein Ballroom. I was like, oh, what a great small place to see her. And we go, and who's the guy that does all the he wrote all the songs, wrote a lot of songs for David Bowie and Duran Duran.
Now Rogers?
Nile Rodgers, right? Black
Yeah.
dude,
Yeah.
guitarist.
He's
Okay,
a
Nile
bass
Rodgers.
player. Amazing
Yeah.
bass player.
Okay, so he's on the show as well.
That's right.
So it's Dolly Parton and him, and we're all excited. I mean, people are freaking out. There's like everybody's got wigs on and fake boobs, and like it's this Dolly world of people just so excited to see him. So we finally get in. We have great seats. We're up in the balcony, but we're center balcony, so it's perfect. Everything is great, and then we're so excited. And she comes out, and we're like, yeah, she comes out. She opens with 9 to 5. Everybody goes bananas, and we're just having such a great time. And then second song, she goes, "I'll always love you," and that song, everybody's going crazy. Oh, what a beautiful song! And then she leaves. And she's like, oh, I got a little cough. I was probably at COVID at the time. And she's like, and then she just leaves. And this was way before COVID. And she just leaves. And then like, that's it. She did 2 songs and she's the top bill. And then poor Nile Rodgers, he did like 40 songs because he has to like make up for all this stuff. And he's like, hey, you probably didn't know I wrote this song. And he's like breaking out to some song, and Duran Duran's song or whatever, Hungry Like the Wolf or something. And you're just like, what? And so it was the craziest thing that like 2 songs and it was $150 tickets. And I was just like, are you kidding me? So I'm a little on the fence with Dolly these days. I feel she owes me some money or another concert or at least a season pass to Dolly World. But yeah, I try to listen to some of those songs. She did like Queen and some, We Will Rock You or something. I don't, sometimes I say stay in your lane and sometimes I say no. And I think rock needs a certain kind of soul. And I think the country is kind of where her lane is. Whereas Johnny Cash was never quite just country. He was kind of this punk rock country guy, like, poet. Like he had there was a lot going on. So he can cover a Trent Reznor song. Like he can make that like a beautiful thing.
He made it his own. That was
I think
great.
they should have made better choices with Dolly. I mean, I think they should have, brought in American studios and and made it more serious songs and kind of like the way they did with Loretta Lynn, with Glenn Campbell, Johnny Cash. Like that's who they should have, that's what they should have done with her. Made a more serious album. Instead, she's got an eye patch and a leather jacket. And I'm like, what's that? Me in high school? What's going on? And she's like running around the title. And she looks amazing. And I love it that she's had the cheerleader outfit on and the football thing or whatever. And I love her. It's hard not to love her, but I don't know if this is, I feel like these people don't have no people in their life. They don't have somebody going, hey man, maybe you shouldn't do that. I feel like you get to a certain status. Nobody's saying no to Dolly. And I think somebody should have steered her in a more serious musical direction. Because I'd love to hear just Dolly and acoustic guitar, just some dude just playing acoustic guitar and her just singing some ballads and stuff, and maybe doing some covers, but not this like trying to just redo the song and it's just I thought that was a bad choice. And nobody wants the deluxe version of that, I'll tell you.
God. Did you hear Waylon's grandson Way Jennings just do a really great cover, Hallelujah by Leonard Cohen?
Yeah, those kids are great. Shooter's great. Yeah, that's a talented band. And so yeah, it's like, I like that kind of stuff. I like it when siblings kind of play homage and do different things. Yeah.
Producer Adam, you could chime in. You don't have to write, your family here.
Yeah, I let Adam have his face on my show. You guys have to hide in the corner.
Oh, come on.
Under the bed. He's got to lay under the bed. And
Adam, show your face. Show your face, dopey. Okay? Because
I miss your face, Adam. There he is.
That's
now tell Dustin what you wrote.
No, I was just saying that Dolly Parton does an incredible, actually it's a bluegrass cover of Collective Soul Shine, which is a really, really excellent cover.
That sounds cool. That's not on the album, is it?
No.
Okay.
I just looked it up. It's from 2001's Little Sparrow.
Yeah.
I done brought a lot to this fucking conversation. Go back to typing, dipshit.
No, I mean, I'd rather hear that than, but that seems, they just didn't do a good job. Like that album's just like crazy. And it's like, she just wants to be sexy and relevant. I get all that, but.
Well, I think she did it because she was inducted to the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame and she felt bad. She wasn't a rock and roller. So she
tried something.
Willie Nelson's in. He's not a rock and roller. It's like, you don't have to be. There's a lot of hip hop guys.
I give her credit.
I give her credit for Jolene. I don't give her credit for that.
The reason why I asked about the cover songs is because I've been going down this rabbit hole. I love listening to acoustic stuff. And do you guys remember Nick Lowe from like the 70s and 80s? He was in a band called Rockpile. Anyway, as a solo artist, he wrote a kind of big hit called "Cruel to Be Kind." And I listened to it. I listened to it acoustically. The guy's in his 70s now. The song Stripped Down is absolutely amazing, phenomenal. And so I started listening to different versions of the song. And I noticed that Letters from Cleo did a version of it. And they do it like in a really more upbeat, really like punky type sound, and it's excellent. So I was kind of, I was curious. Like bands like Goldfinger do a phenomenal version of 99 Red Balloons. The Lemonheads did a great version of Mrs. Robinson. So I wonder if you guys heard any of these versions of these
Yeah,
songs.
there was a big thing where they did like punk goes country, punk rock, punk goes this, where they had all these punk bands that were doing all different types of cover songs. Some of them are great, but some of them are hot garbage too. There's a
Yeah, I
lot of good
mean,
covers. I mean, like Atreyu, I don't know if you know who they are. They do a great cover of You Could Love a Bad Name by Bon Jovi. Buck
Dream
Cherry.
Theater, everything they do.
Buck Cherry, for a while was doing this thing when I don't know if it was Bandcamp or one of those pay services. They if you join their fan club for $5 every month, you would get a new cover song. And they did like "Devil Inside" by NXS. They did "I've Done Everything for You" by Rick Springfield, and "On the Road Again" by Willie. So those are some decent ones. I love Def Leppard does "No Matter What," but I forgot who does that. I think it's Badfinger.
That's Badfinger, yeah.
Badfinger. They do a great version of
But they
that.
also did a cover album.
Yeah, that's true too.
Yeah.
That's true. Hailstorm did a couple EPs that were covers
Oh,
as well, and
they
Stone
do.
Sour did.
Their version of that Lady Gaga song is a phenomenal, off the charts.
And Shinedown does a really
Bad
different.
Romance.
Oh yeah, I saw that live before they released it, and I was like, "This is going to be a banger."
No, sick.
Shinedown did a really cool version. You have to go on iTunes or whatever of "I Feel the Earth Move" by
The
Carole
Carole King song, yeah.
Yeah, really, really great version of that. And then I think that's really like those are probably my favorites, I would say.
Okay, so let's wrap things up with here. And Dustin, thank you so much for coming on, man. This has
yeah, thank
been
you guys.
excellent.
Anytime. I love
Um,
to hang out.
you turned when we did Dustin's vinyl, you turned us on to some like we all turned each other on to some pretty cool music.
Yeah,
Uh,
you turned me on to the Struts. That was fun. I
yeah,
appreciate that.
one of the artists that you turned me on to was Gary Clark Jr.
Yeah.
And I hadn't listened to him until he was like, "Hey, you got to listen to this album," and then like let's talk about it in a week. Okay, so like I listened to it, I love him. So it made me think if you had to put together a Mount Rushmore of guitar players, who are the four guys you're putting on your it doesn't mean they're the best guitar player. They may have had an influence, they may have they may did something to stand up. Who are your Mount Rushmore of guitar players?
Yeah, I mean these things are always kind of tough, because I feel like I feel like blues guitarists are different than rock guitarists, jazz guitarists. It's really tough to put in. I think impact is kind of important to me. People that kind of changed things. So I think Link Ray would be up there just for
Hmm.
Rumble alone. They banned it from the radio because kids were getting pregnant and crashing cars and doing crazy stuff. But at the time, the late 50s or whatever, like they weren't ready for this sound. And so I think, anybody that takes something and it was all instrumental. There was no lyrics, there was no like Elvis lyrics where people went crazy and whatever. It was just a dude with a guitar, and he's Native American, which I love. So he deserves to be on some, Dakota mountaintop or something. But I think Link Ray would be up there just as impact. And if you've never heard Rumble, you've never heard one of the greatest pieces of rock music of all time, in my opinion. It's very surf rock and cool. His sound is fantastic. So I think a guy like that would make it just for impact. I think Stevie Ray Vaughan would be up there. I feel
Can't go
Stevie
wrong
Ray
with him.
Vaughan is somebody that changed kind of the perception of blues. Is not just an old black man on a stool. Like blues can rock. He was doing stuff with his fingers that, a lot of people couldn't do. And I feel like he influenced a lot of the rock bands that were coming after him. And so Stevie Ray would definitely be up there for me. Brian May from Queen, I think would be a guy that, deserves more credit. And when he comes to the conversation of guitar, everybody's going to go Eddie or this guy or that guy. But I think a guy like that started a lot of that music. That was
The overdubbing.
Yeah, just some great innovative stuff. And so I think that's the innovative stuff. And Sister Rosetta Tharpe, I think she was like the first person to actually bring electric guitar and singing together. And so you gotta put the person that first did it. And the fact that she's a woman is pretty freaking cool. And so yeah, I think she deserves to be on that because I think we need to recognize people that were kind of innovators and trailblazers. And she was, if you get a chance, it's old kind of gospel sound music, but she adds this electric guitar sound. I mean, she shreds, dude. And this is like the early 50s. And so, yeah, I think that would be, I think I guess, there's honorable mentions. Eddie's going to be in there. I think Prince, in my opinion, is going to be in there. I don't think there's a better solo than the end of Let's Go Crazy. I think that, I mean, every time I hear that solo, I can't not listen to it. I mean, there's Eruption and all these other things, but for some reason, Let's Go Crazy is just, the end of that is great. So I think Prince was kind of, and then once you saw him, when they did that induction and he's like shredding to My Guitar Gently Weeps, and like he's phenomenal. He's blowing everybody on the stage, and those are the most phenomenal group of musicians on that stage. Tom Petty's like, what? And everybody's like, what's going on? And they're just amazed how good he is. And he, and so I think he would be, I think it needs to be more than 4 guys. I think because guitar is such a, it's a beautiful thing. Yeah, I think it's tough. I'm trying to see if anybody else made. Jimi Hendrix would also be honorable mention as well. Jimmy's he's a guy that impact, music changed after he grabbed a guitar. And so I think I think I would have like the big 4 that would interchange each other. I would just switch them out. Like at my Mount Rushmore, it would be a rotating Rushmore, because I think yeah, you just put, okay,
it could change.
This year it's going to be this guy, and this year this guy. I actually made another list. This is because I knew I was doing this. I made a Mount Rushmore of living people that are relatively active. The only one that I'm not sure about is Jimmy Page. I don't know if he's still active, and it's people I've seen live. I've actually seen all these people live. And so I saw Jimmy Page, I saw Led Zeppelin when I was young, and I still remember the double neck guitar and like, the way the crowd was reacting to it. Kingfish Ingram is this blues sensation. I saw him open for Buddy Guy. Most incredible blues guitarist I've ever seen in my life. This kid is young. He's like 26 and he's a prodigy. He's phenomenal. I just saw Alice Cooper and Orianthi. Do you know that? Orianthi?
Oh,
she's
yeah, of
Australian
course. Yes.
guitarist.
Yeah. She used to be Sambora's girlfriend.
Yeah, phenomenal. Well, she's way more than his girlfriend now. I mean, she can shred it. Also, Slash is going to make that honorable mention. And then I saw PIL when I was a kid, and Steve Vai is somebody that's going to make that list. Yeah. Steve Vai is going to make that list as well. So that's my kind of, my Mount Rushmore thing, which I do like. I think you should interchange everybody once a year.
You brought up some pretty cool names that you don't see on like a lot of lists. Why'd you go with Adam? Do you have any thoughts on this?
Well, I actually just pulled up the Rolling Stone 250.
Not the wrong.
Mute his microphone. Mute his fucking microphone.
Sure gets so angry.
Think for yourself, Adam. Think for yourself.
Oh God.
Who's your like something that's personal to you? Okay.
Oh God, I can't wait to hear this list. Go ahead.
Oh geez.
Well, there was a band in
Hoboken once in '97.
The Blow Monkeys had a really good lead guitarist.
Don't set on the Blow Monkeys, man. Anyway, go ahead.
I dig in your scene, Dustin.
Oh yeah, I'd have to think.
From Radiohead.
I've never actually done a guitarist list, but yeah, I'd have to think about it. It's
we'll come back to you. Okay. Yeah. I knew this was a mistake. Go ahead, John.
I treated you better, Adam.
He's much better as there's a reason why
I
you
also
never
prepped you, Adam. No, I prepped Adam. Like Jeff just throws him under the bus. Like, hey, you don't have anything? You only have 3 seconds to think about it.
Oh yeah,
because he knows. The thing is, he knows music. Okay, but he this is Adam. Go ahead.
Pee shy is what it is. He's pee shy. He's the kind of guy who goes into a stall to take a piss. He doesn't want to piss.
He is pee shy.
That Adam, I like it about you. You don't need these narcissistic comic energy all the time. I like you, buddy. You listen. God knows we need that.
I can't go personal picks. With it because my picks are all over the place. I'm going straight. What I feel are facts or earned.
Facts are weird because
this is a fact.
Sports. It's not sports.
No, sorry, not facts. I feel that these are earned.
But this is completely subjective.
It is. It's always subjective.
I'm taking myself personally out of it, and I'm going as somebody who was a musician and who knows this stuff. I'm going with Eric Clapton. I'm going with Dwayne Allman.
Very
I'm
well.
going with Stevie Ray Vaughan and Eddie Van Halen.
Okay. If I had to go, I mean, this is a guy who I never hear get any type of love, is Tom Schultz from Boston. He created a sound. He was phenomenal. He invented the Rockman, okay, which is that muffled type sound. He was really like he invented a part of an instrument. I love Tom Schultz, and especially some of the leads that he's done have been amazing. Randy Rhoads, the guy who's only 20, I think it's 25. Did you really? I never bring up Ozzy.
I wanted to guess your list. I wanted to guess your list. I forgot to do that.
Yes, I was gonna say Randy Rhoads. I mean, I just don't know if there's a better guitar player who ever lived. You know, and remember, he doesn't make it to 27. He's only 25, 26 years old when he dies. David Gilmour of
I'll give you that. That's a good
Pink Floyd is one of, he's just beautiful. He can play on an amazing slide guitar. Listen to his lead in High Hopes and tell me that doesn't emote some type of emotion. And then I also find it very hard to come up with a number 4, and it can be anyone from Eddie Van Halen to Jimi Hendrix to Jimmy Page. They're all off the charts players.
Yeah, I think it's it's what speaks to you. Like
Exactly.
blues may speak more to me than it does to Sean. It may speak more. It's what it is.
I would put Dimebag down. I'd put Dimebag Darrell on my list if I had to make a person.
Yeah, he was great. I mean, especially for that genre of music. It's like there's nobody could shred.
Cowboys
like
from Hell. Is there a better riff, like identifiable?
That opening. I used to come out to that. I used to come out to that. It was great. I was like, I'd wait for the whole song to play. Yeah, before I'd even come out.
Adam, have you thought of anything yet?
I think the best one I saw live was, and Dustin already talks about him, was Prince. I think it was the best, at least seeing in concert. Maybe I'm trying to think of some others. Who's the man? I can't even think, for Black Keys.
Oh yeah, that guy's great.
Dan.
I don't know. I just buy albums. I don't know all the
names. Dan Soder.
Derek Truck. Speaking of the Allman Brothers,
great.
I think he's great, and I had a pleasure to hang out with him. We played poker together, and he was telling Allman Brothers stories, and but that was phenomenal. Just
Kenny Wayne Shepherd.
Yeah,
another brilliant guitar player.
Absolutely.
Listen, man, we can do this for probably another 2 hours just to hear and bullshit talk music. But Dustin, I really want to thank you so much for coming on, man.
Thank you, buddy.
Great catching up, really.
Yeah, it's always fun. I always say, in order for friends to actually talk to each other, we got to do a podcast. Nobody's gonna call each other.
That's right.
There has to be a mic involved, or we're not.
No, Jeff calls me, Dustin. Jeff calls me when I get it. I get this pit in my stomach, like I have a fucking ulcer when I see the phone. Because you have to understand, I will personally send you the picture that I have for Jeffrey's contact photo, and when you see this picture, you'll understand why I get physically revolted when he calls me.
Does he have a hammer?
No, he was sick one day. He was this fucking. Don't get me fucking started with this, please. No, it's a ketchup bottle. Oh God, it's dumb fucking headshots. Anyway, no, there was one day where he was really sick and he had the flu, and he had to send me a picture of him with the flu.
Okay.
And he looked so pathetic, and I made that his contact photo.
That's hilarious. Yeah, he sent me some weird pictures over the years, and I'll be like, dude, why are you sending a picture of this?
Yeah, usually he's pointing. He's got a mic cable wrapped around his neck. Yeah, not hard enough. But
I get a lot of food involved. I think I've had a few where he's got like a Twinkie in his mouth or something. This is some weird Happy New Year, and he's got like 2 Twinkies. You're like, what?
Yeah, I'm glad we
can Photoshop that. We can Photoshop that real quick.
I may have to maybe I have to rethink all this now.
Yeah, no all props in your headshots. That's new rule for 2024.
I am what I am, and I'm sticking to it. I'll be doing
no
VFWs.
Hammers, no Twinkies, no ketchup bottles.
No, I'm going to be doing VFWs for the rest of my life.
Straight face. Hey, I love it. Yeah, who books that?
Yeah. Hopefully the next one's a fucking circular saw. And you're just jumping on it. That's what I'm hoping the next headshot is.
Oh, shut up. You would miss him so much. It'd just be you and Adam. Come on. You wouldn't be able to handle it.
Dustin, where can people find you, and what do you got coming up that we can kind of help you promote?
You can find me on the old Instagram. I'm trying to get those followers up at Dustin_Chafin. I'll be in Ogden, Utah, February 16th and 17th at Wise Guys headlining. So come check me out. And then the end of February, be on the Be Funny tour, Nate Bargatze. We're hitting Washington, D.C. and Virginia and Maine. It's going to be a really fun tour. So yeah, come out. I'll get you backstage. We'll take some pictures with no props.
Are the
No
in-laws
ketchup
coming to the
bottle.
show in Maine?
The what?
In-laws come to the show in Maine?
No, they just saw me in Portland, Maine, and that they live pretty close to that. This is Bangor, Maine, so it's a little farther out. So they're not coming to that. So yeah, this is gonna be great. I hate it when people come to shows sometimes, like that, like your in-laws. You're like, oh god, they're looking at me like, really? This is the guy taking care of my daughter with you, you know. But yeah, it's gonna be fun time. So come out. This has been a lot of fun.
Guys,
Yay.
please check out Dustin Chafin. Go see him on tour. He's hysterical and a great guy on top of it. All right, listen, man, thank you
Yay.
so much for doing this, and we will catch you next time on Who's Your Band. Thank you very much, everybody.
Ooh.